wanted to speak about a sense of self today because this is something that I have recently kind of almost clashed with my therapist about. As with a lot of things, it comes off the back of just a kind of random experience that I had in the home a couple of weekends ago. It wasn't even a big deal of anything. It was just a tiny little thing that it made me think about stuff. It gave me a really awkward feeling, and all it was a comment from one family member to another family member. It wasn't even inclusive of me, didn't even have me involved in it. But what it was about was so insignificant, but it hit me in a way that made me kind of feel a little bit odd. So I took myself off and I kind of went in to explore it. Now, in order for me to kind of get this across of how kind of stupid this is, I'm going to tell you what it is. And it is peculiar in how it made me feel. So, bit of background information. I've never really known who I am or what my thing is. Just felt like I just kind of scooted through life like everybody else. Never really had, my thing. Never really had something that's, I don't know, I felt it was uniquely mine. I am the youngest child of the family. As with many in a certain situation in life, I grew up on hand-me-downs from my bigger brother. I just grew up, being told I had to share everything that was mine. And having this weird feeling that was never the same for him. He never really had to share his own stuff. It was always me that had to share with him. The only things that he shared was literally stuff that was cast away from him. That's kind of a little bit of a backstory that may be or may not be important for my lack of sense of self, if you like. Fast forward to a point where I get a little bit older and I can start buying my own stuff. I stumbled across, this is going to sound so stupid, but I stumbled across brightly coloured underwear, and I just thought, you know what, I like it, I'm going to go and buy some, and I did. But what it symbolises is weirdly more than that, I think, and that's where the sticking issue is. So I had these kind of crazy coloured boxer shorts for a couple of years, and I noticed randomly at Christmas, as is tradition for men, you get underwear for Christmas. But I noticed that my folks were sort of buying this stuff for my brother. You don't really think too much of it, but internally, something just kind of bites you a little bit, and it was a really strange feeling. Fast forward, God knows how many years, to the other week, and all it was my mother turned to my brother and said, "Oh, did you know there's a sale on at this shop?" And I just felt really kind of I don't even know what the word is to describe it, but internally I just felt sad. I just felt like something you know what I mean? Just like a sad of just an outward sigh of exhaustion or something like that. And that's what I say. I took myself off to try and sit down and be like, okay, what's this all about then? And after stripping back the layers of the thought process and the feeling and trying to understand the feeling itself and everything else, what I landed on was I don't have a sense of self or who I am. And that was kind of the final straw in terms of it was something that I bought for me. It was completely nobody else in the family had done that. And it was, as daft as it is, it felt sort of like an extension of my personality. But it was a small little kind of non-issue thing for myself. But it felt like I, with everything in my life, had to then give it up. Hand it over. And I know there's millions of people in the world. So many people share so much. But when you're an individual and you're trying to, I suppose, find out who you are, and everything that you have, everything you do is shared with or overshadowed by somebody else. And that was something that I said to the therapist. It feels that I'm living in the shadow that I create that somebody else casts. So it feels that if I achieve something, a few years later, my brother will probably achieve something similar. Not up there, but, a little bit here. And it seems like it's a bigger deal. A bigger deal than if I done something. It's almost like it's an expectation of me, and it's a big deal for him. So it's been really hard to just feel that I have a sense of self. And the way that I explained it to the therapist is I feel that who I am is a mix of who I have to be to fit in around the family. I don't feel like I have an individuality. I feel like I am the three other people that live in this house rather than my own self. And as stupid as it is, when those little things happen and you do feel a little bit strange inside and you do sit there and go, it's because I don't have my own thing. I don't get to have anything that is my own, anything that is me. I have to share everything. You kind of feel a little bit lost. And I was speaking to the therapist about it, and he said, like, why don't you just do something that you enjoy, do something that you want to do. And when, things come up, say to people, no, I'm doing this for me. And it's because, well, the kind of the heat that you're going to get from that. But I just found it very, very strange. And I guess I really wanted to talk to you guys about some form of sense of self, because I think there's a lot of people who were struggling to find out who we are. And for me, I've never really understood why I'm struggling to find out who I am. So that moment for me was a little bit of a light bulb moment, or a little bit of a time that I was able to take myself away and just sit down and think about stuff and kind of like analyse my feelings and just look deeper into it and try and understand, okay, this sucks. Why does it suck so much? But how do you find out who you are? How do you find out a sense of self? If you have to share everything you do and everything you are and everything you just literally feels like everything with somebody else. And it's not like in the same way of, I don't know, I'd argue marriage is a choice that you share things with somebody else or that kind of thing. It's literally like something that's imposed on you, that your responsibility, your persona almost, is to be the one who shares everything with everybody. You don't have anything for yourself. You don't have no identity as a result. You're an extension of everybody else's. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but I found it to be very hard. It's the only way I can describe it. It was very hard because it's such a strange, peculiar thing. And what I'm noticing more is it's the strange and peculiar things that are like, they're shaking something up here and they're making me go, hang on, let me just look at this and try and understand it. It's the small little things that I'm taking to the therapist and sort of saying, look, I don't understand why this situation made me feel like this. And then we scrape it back and we find out that there's like loads and loads of layers to it. But as annoying as the small thing is to me, it's also frustration that they're just petty things in the first place. And I sort of had a little bit of not an argument with the therapist, but a bit of a disagreement with the therapist, because bless him, a lot of it comes down to validating feelings and emotions. And he's sitting there saying, you're well within your, let's say, right, for want of a better word, you're well within your right to feel the emotions that you feel at the time of the events that you feel it. And I was sort of sat there and was like, yeah, but am I though? Like, really? Am I allowed to feel that I don't have a sense of self because I have to share something that, it's not even uniquely me, but you know what I mean? Something that I felt was just for me in my own little bubble, but turns out it wasn't. Like, everything that I turn to talk to the therapist about, I just feel like I'm having a bit of a divas drop. And he's there trying to reassure me that it's okay to have these feelings and stuff, but it's like, I feel rough because everything that I'm speaking out about is making it feel that, or making it seem that I've got something really against my family deep down. And I don't. But at the same time, I mean, I came away, the last thing I sort of said to the therapist was like, how can you turn just certain things off so they just don't even register in your brain anymore? And it's not a great way, and he's sort of saying, well, what do you mean? And it's like, well, basically, it feels like I just have to accept everything, and accepting everything to me is sort of, just rolling over to it all. Like basically submitting to everything and just going through things that way. It doesn't make me happy to do that. It doesn't make me feel like I'm, I don't know, like in charge of my own life. I'm just doing what everybody else wants and says and just bundling through that way. And, that plays into the sense of self kind of thing. But then I'm fast learning that I don't really know what a sense of self is supposed to feel like anyway. So how do I know what I'm missing if I don't know what it's supposed to feel like? But yeah, he was very, bless him, he got really frustrated because he kept on sort of repeating himself. It's like, you are allowed to feel the feelings that you're feeling. And I'm there questioning it like, yeah, but am I though? Because do we not decide in ourselves these little characteristic quirks about ourselves? In which case, like, why don't I just rewrite whatever those are? It's just like, I'm always, I don't know. It felt like in that therapy session, there was a third person, me, looking at me speaking to the therapist. And I'm looking at myself in that chair talking, and all I'm thinking is, mate, why are you always trying to look for an excuse or a reason or something to say that your own feelings don't matter and that everybody else's is fine? Like, it's just you're overreacting or you're doing this. Like, why have you always got to put everybody else before you? You know it makes you feel crap. You know it makes it feel like garbage. And you know it's really, it's hurting you mentally. It's hurting you. But you're still so determined to do it. Even if the whole world, it feels like it's against you, you're still so determined to find excuses for everybody else. And quite happy to just throw yourself under the bus. Like, I don't know. It's really, really weird, man. It really is weird. But I mean, what do I want myself to be? That's the other truth. I don't know. I sort of spoke to the therapist and I said, there's like been very few occasions in life where there's been a big like event happen. 9 times out of 10, it's usually from a like really messy breakup, and I've gone and done something really out of character. And one of the examples that I did is I had a real messy breakup, and I just went straight into I did a calendar shoot for a hospice to raise money, and it was a naked calendar shoot, but it was also like, it wasn't like full naked stuff. You were covered with whatever you took and stuff like that. So it was cheeky, I suppose, is the best way to do it. But it's so out of character. Nobody would have thought that it'd be something that I did. Nobody would have, put me down for it as that sort of person. But it was something that I did, and I told the therapist that, you know what, it felt kind of fun. It felt kind of not cool, but because it was out of character, it felt rebellious without it meaning to feel rebellious. It just felt like, when you have boundaries that maybe you want to push, but there's always that little bit that holds you back. Well, it's moments after like big events for me where it all turns to crap, where my brain just goes, fuck it, what you got to lose? Just do something. So that's how I ended up doing that. And then speaking to the therapist about it all, and I was just like, mate, it just feels like right now I just want to go do a skydive. No, I don't want to do a skydive, but a little part of me does want to do a skydive. But it takes some sort of big event that really kind of just grinds me down, that just makes me feel sodden. You know what, I'm just going to do it. It takes that for me to, I suppose, arguably experience life or, do something like that in life. Which, as I said to him, was kind of scary because it feels that everything's kind of got a little bit more extreme or wild or, a little bit more out there. And I don't want to go to a point where it's going to be something that's going to be too messy. But it's the only time that I really feel that I find a little bit out about who I am, is when I just feel that I don't have anything left to lose, or, you know, you hit that rock bottom attitude of, you know what, screw you, screw everything, and I'm just going to go do this. But it's always been, you know, like a good focus. It's always been like charity or anything like that. It's never been, you know, never going to go out on a bender and just fill myself up with drink and drugs or anything like that. It's always been something that's had a positive, what would you call it, like a positive outcome. So, I don't know. Yeah, I just found it so strange that just a small little thing could kind of like rock you a little bit, and yeah, sense of self and validating your own feelings is just, it's something I really, really do struggle with. Like, I just don't think any of my thoughts or emotions are validated, or, you know, I don't think there's any validation to that. I don't know what the word it is, but you know what I mean? It's like everybody's comes first and mine don't matter. And the amount of times I say that to him when I'm in that chair, we'll talk about situations and he's like, how does it make you feel? And I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, trying to emphasize that so much so that somebody understands it is really hard, especially when they come from the perspective of everything, you know, everybody's thoughts, feelings, whatever, experiences do matter. And trying to tell somebody that has that opinion, they're like, no, they don't matter. They don't matter. They don't. Stop trying to tell me that they do, because they don't. But yeah, I don't know. I've been wanting to do this video for, like I say, last couple of weeks. It's just really tricky trying to find the right words and the right way to do it, because ultimately I know a lot of this stuff is just, you know, when I watch this stuff back and I sit here and I realise, oh, I'm just moaning about not feeling myself. I don't know who I'm supposed to be, and it was all because of some boxer shorts. Like, I'm very, very much aware of what I'm saying. But you know what's really, really messy? Is there's actually a lot more of us than it seems. And it might not be in the similar ways that my kind of things are, but people do seem to share the, you know, the meat of what I'm saying. Yeah, the little bits here and there are different for everybody, but, you know, those feelings, those experiences, they're more frequent than you realise. They really are. Part of me just wants to stop feeling, because it feels like having a thought process and emotions and stuff like that. It's just kind of grinding me down at the minute, but it's part of the journey, right? Part of what I wanted to do was work out who the hell I am and what makes me tick and why I am like I am, and why I'm unfolding isn't very fun. My therapist is often telling me that when I say something to him, and he's like, yeah, but that is what you've experienced, it's your reality, but it's not how things have to be. Okay, show me a different reality then, because I only know the one that I know. I don't know, man. If I didn't do a skydive, would anybody want to sponsor me? Because as dumb as it is, I'm thinking about it.